Icarus here. Can you believe that, technically speaking, I've been covering the same mod for 7 weeks now? It might drive lesser people insane. This time on Bring Your Own Class, we're dealing with something that I would very much describe as a legacy character. Although you may have spotted Pico more recently in the likes of Friday Night Funkin', he actually originates from the genesis of Newgrounds itself around about 1999. In terms of class quirks, however, Pico is interesting in that certain types of weaponry will actually make him more nervous to use. The more nervous he gets, the more damage he'll actually deal, but that also comes at the cost of reduced speed. Hopefully, that can be remedied by what else but smoking a fat blunt. Weapon roster here is pretty much baseline in terms of what to expect from each particular slot. Of that, however, a few notable entries include the likes of a pencil for stabbing, a gas canister which can be thrown and leaves lingering damaging flames, a disc launcher which in idle moments can also be used to do a little bit of record scratching, a hail of knives, and some weird alien's head on a stick, which is pretty much a BFG, but without the AoE. Did you know that in Mexico there's a museum of memes and they have a bust of the Trollface? That's right, on this entry of Bring Your Own Class, we're dealing with the personification of internet mischief itself, Trollface. I would have read the manual for this one, but it's upside down and my neck hurts. Not that it would help, because a lot of the stock and trade of this class is just abject nonsense. Primary will occasionally produce anvils, knives, photocopiers, skulls, spinning toilets, and occasionally plushy cats that dispense health. There's also bananas. Cardboard cutouts of enemies can be dispensed that absorb projectiles and explode when shot, and if you hit the reload button you get Spartan Rage, which is... Do you remember the meme? Do you remember it? Remember? Anyway, you can cover yourself and enemies in oil, shove carrots into your eyes, throw cats with toast stuck to their back, repeatedly abuse the banhammer, and of course the most devastating weapon of all, the Nokia 3310. This next class should be familiar to any of you that have dabbled with combined arms. Say hello to Artie. There's a few fun quirks to this class. Weapons can still be fired when empty, they'll just be a heck of a lot weaker, whereas other weapons feature a heat gauge which, when maxed out, will require them to cool off before you can start using them at full pelt again. Weaponry-wise, you'll kick things off with the super machine gun, which has a burst fire primary, and if you build up the gauge enough, which can be done with any weapon, it'll grant you grenades. You get a spread gun, which gets less spready the faster you shoot. There's the solar pistols, which can be fired independently, and interestingly, one can be used to charge up the other. The Sophia cannon is where the overheat comes in. If you fire the secondary too much, you get the cooldown with a much less effective primary as a result. The Hunter's Knives and Holy Water bring a dash of Castlevania. The Wrecking Crew hammer not only slams, but spins. And you can also summon a tiny little version of yourself, just doing a cosplay of Link. It's adorable! On a similar tangent to Artie here in Bring Your Own Class, we have Telos. Weaponry-wise, he kicks things off with a laser rifle that will charge up for every shot you land, and then can fire an uber-powerful star shot when the gauge is full. After that, we got something that feels kind of like an auto-shotty with the primary, but the secondary fires multiple rows of spread-fire projectiles. This next one's a nice homage to Gradius. It's basically the Vic Viper fighter, but as a automatic rifle. And on top of that, you can build a meter that allows you to select from multiple different fire modes. The Meta Fighter cannon here is pretty much the same deal as Artie's Sophia cannon, and the Fire Flower lets you choose between a more precise long-range fireball and a big old chaotic bouncing clump of them. This lightning rifle here occupies the BFG slot. Primary pretty good for crowd control, secondary kind of like a railgun, and you've got a cat-themed turret called Sven, because of course it is. Couldn't find too much info on the net for these next two entries, which I'm bundling together, that being Johnny Killer 45 and his friend Killer 46. Despite sounding like they'd give me an absolute earful about my mother if I was playing against them on an online COD lobby, the reality is that in practice they're much less abrasive to play with. Both of these share a meter, but both do slightly different things. Johnny's Rage meter will allow him to recoup health when full, or can then be spent in order to cash in a perk. Killer 46's meter, however, is entirely centered around his sword. Landing hits when it's charged will recoup health, and the secondary will shoot a highly damaging fireball. As for standouts in the weapon roster, there's a shotgun called the Second Cock. Johnny also just straight up throws rockets. Killer 46 gets default cool by having Akimbo SMGs as a starter weapon, exploding shurikens, and the Raijin cannon, which can be upgraded with a BFG ult if you find, well, a BFG. Well, that about wraps up week 7 of Bring Your Own Class. Hopefully only a handful more left to go, and as usual, I gotta say big thanks for anyone that sticks around to the end of these videos. Doubly thankful for the patrons, which you can see scrolling up screen right now, and if you'd like to join this esteemed list, the Patreon link is in the description below. But anyway, until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus, thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.